Welcome back to the garage. Today's video is going to be quite a bit different than the ones that I normally film, edit, and upload for you all to watch. The other day I took my rollback out to a nice gentleman's farm here in town who was cleaning up the place and wanted rid of some scrap, and that scrap ended up being what's left of this 1976 International Scout Rallye edition. Now Rallye meaning from the factory, it would have had the chrome headlight bezels and bumper like you see. Would have had some nice white spoke wheels, the fancy stripe package with the Rallye name embossed in here, and if this still had a body on it, it would have had some nice bucket seats and other interior options. But I picked this up the other day, I got it for free, and I was thinking about just taking it down into my field, holding on to it for parts if I ever run across another Scout 2. But the more I look at it, and don't get me wrong, I may be idiotic about this, but I think that it'll actually start up and run. Possibly even move under its own power. Now the body is completely destroyed, the dash is pushed back, both fenders are destroyed on it, but the frame looks like it's nice and straight, and the drivetrain is all intact. So let me go ahead and get the forklift out here, we'll unload it and take a closer look. Now don't get me wrong, it's nice to have my own rollback, but it definitely doesn't help with the compulsion to drag stuff home. I've got the Scout unloaded and it's sitting under my favorite shade tree here on the property. Hopefully that can keep the sun off me and keep me from completely baking out here in the heat that we've been getting. But I have seen some pretty rough will it start videos here on YouTube, and this one might just take the cake, at least in my opinion. Somebody has had a lot of fun with this old Scout and there's not much left of it. The only saving grace that I can spot right off the bat is the fact that it looks like this hood has covered the engine for however long it's been sitting outside. I'm hoping that kept water from getting down into the carburetor and getting into this engine, but we'll have to wait and see. I haven't checked yet to see if it's locked up, but I did inspect the bottom half of the engine block and the oil pan to see if there was a rod hanging out or somebody used it for target practice. And it all looks good in that aspect. But you can see there's some other scrap sitting on top of here. I've got these two axles, which I know nothing about. I'm going to just assume that they're scrap. What's left of the body is kind of wadded up here on the back. I need to address that as well. The dash is pushed back. It's blocking the shifter lever and the clutch pedal is stuck to the floor, so that's something I'm going to have to address. Right down here is the tag. I just wanted to show you. You can see where it says 12 of 77 on there. So this is a 77 Scout. Go around to the other side. Looks like the rear of the frame may be bent in the very back because of the bumper. Leaf springs are kind of shuffled around. You can see down inside the carburetor is still on the engine. It's got a V8 in it of some kind. I'm assuming a 266, but I could be wrong about that. We'll check that over. The first thing I need to do is get my skid steer over here and take these axles off. Now I could have used the forklift, but the skid steer is a little bit more precise. We'll remove this scrap and then we'll start diving into the engine and seeing how we can get to it to make sure it's not locked up. But remind me to not let that orb weaver get on me. I know a lot of people would be worried about a snake hiding in here. I'm not scared about a snake, but that spider is making me shake in my boots. But anyways, let's get to work. This will all make sense in just a moment, but in the words of my wise friend, Mr. Waylon Wire, what could possibly go wrong? So much for my net idea. It already seen me coming, so let's try this. My anxiety is like at a level 10 right now. I'm not even joking. So I've got to relocate my little friend here. Is anybody else feeling scared right now? I'm gonna go take him down in the field so he's away from these trucks.
You can't eat cats. You can't eat cats, Kevin.
And in case you're wondering, yes, I do have a recent tetanus shot. I've got the tub, well, what's pretty much left of the tub cleaned out. You can see the scrap in a pile. I cleaned up all of the trash out of here. And maybe you can tell, but this dash is leaning back really hard on the passenger side. Now, I actually thought about just chaining the frame down to my rollback when it was still sitting on the truck and using a chain to pull up on the top of the dash with the forklift, but I think that's only going to cause the rest of this body to try to separate from the frame. What I really need to do is get in the floorboard area with some bottle jacks and pieces of wood and try to spread this back apart. Because you can see the dash is leaned all the way back against the gear shifter. These pedals are really close to the floorboards as well, so this side is crushed down. You can see the floor is swelled up really bad in the back. I was kind of worried when I picked this up because there's no key in the ignition, but you can see that somebody has actually broken it to where it will spin already. And there's some kind of switch on the side of this column. It may be for power already. But anyways, enough about that. Let me get some rubber gloves and maybe some trash bags and clean out all this nastiness that's around the engine.
One eternity later.
It's the following day. I wanted to show you the progress I made on cleaning up the engine bay. I got a good amount of the debris removed. I uncovered the negative battery cable, the positive battery cable, and you can also see the master cylinder and power steering pump. I haven't checked for any fluids, but I'm sure they're probably dry. Battery tray is completely rusted out. All of the spark plug wires are chewed off. I'll show you the passenger side, but I need to get this hood out of the way. Since it tilts forward and it's in really rough shape, I can't really get to the radiator shroud to clean it out. So I'm going to take the impact and try to get these bolts removed to pop the hood off of here. But let me show you the passenger side. You can see the top radiator hose has been chewed on. The distributor cap is missing and it's rusty inside, so I'm hoping it's not totally locked up. The fan blades are bent and absolutely foobarred. The alternator is unhooked from the bracket, and you can also see that the belts are chewed up and ruined. All of the spark plug wires are chewed up on this side also. I need to get this heater box out of the way to get a little bit better access to the engine, and luckily it appears there's only one bolt holding it, so I can get that out of the way and work on the passenger side a little easier. But let me get the impact out and we'll take this hood off of here. I removed the heater assembly, which gives me better access to the passenger side of this engine. Just goes to figure, as soon as I pop the hood off of here, it started to lightly sprinkle, so now I might just have to cover the exposed engine up with plastic and quit on it for a bit. But I'd really like to get this carburetor taken apart and cleaned up, see how nasty it is inside. But before I do that, I need to check and see if this engine is locked up or not. And the next part of the puzzle is to figure out how to get this transmission pulled out of gear. I got a good laugh the other night when I started to edit this video, because I realized I said the best course of action to get the smashed dash off the top of this shifter is to put a bottle jack and a block of wood in the floorboard area and try to spread it back apart. Well, there is no floorboards left in this thing. I mean, it's basically the firewall that runs down to the bare frame, and you can also see on the passenger side there's nothing holding this body to the frame, so that's not going to work. It'd probably be better off of me to just completely tear this body off of here, but I still kind of want to see how it works. I mean, if there's any chance the wiring is still good in here, which it's probably not. But anyway, to get the shifter rod free, I think I'm going to have to go a different route. I noticed once I got the scrap removed from here and the hood tilted back forward that the cowl area is completely detached and ruined as well. The only thing really holding the shifter rod from moving is the top of this dash, so I think I'm going to get in here with my Sawzall, possibly even the plasma cutter, and just cut this back so I can get the shifter rod free. That way it disconnects the transmission from the engine and we can see if the engine is locked up or not. Well, I mentioned it, so let's at least try it. It does look like it actually worked some, because you can see there's a little bit of room, so let me set the camera up and we'll try it out. Perfect. Just enough room. I wanted to mention I didn't really want to get in here with my Sawzall and cut this up because the heater control looks like it's in really nice shape, and I'm actually trying to salvage all the parts off of this that I can that could be reused by somebody who's fixing one of these Scouts up, so just something to keep in mind. It's starting to rain out here. I've just about got the front pulley cleared out of all the debris so I can get my socket on there and try to spin this engine over. Now, I just gauged what size the socket was from that 345 that's sitting over there covered up on the ground. That's the one that came out of my Travelette. But let me get this cleared up a little bit more, and I'll try to get the camera set to where we can both see at the same time if this engine's going to turn or not. Well, I got the socket on here. It's a 15/16, but you can see that the front end is pushed back so far that the radiator shroud won't allow me to use this deep well. I'll probably have to go in and try to grab a shallow socket, or I might just make it easy on myself and pull the shroud out of here to get it out of the way. The only shallow 15/16 I could find is 3/4 inch drive, so I've got this massive Williams ratchet down here that I can barely turn. But we'll see if this engine will turn over. Doesn't look promising. It may be hard to tell, but I'm actually standing even with the frame rails here in the front, and you can see just how far the driver's side radiator support is pushed back. That's not allowing me a lot of room down here to get a breaker bar and socket on that crank pulley, but the little bit that I've moved it, I'm just getting the bolt tighter, so this engine may be locked up. But I'm going to make it easier on myself and pull the radiator completely out of here. I'll get the fan blades out of the way as well, so I can get the breaker bar and socket on the top side. It's actually got the bolts on this side taken out already. So I'll get the ones out of the passenger side, pull the radiator out of here, and I'll get a better bite to try to turn this engine over. Nothing better than taking off a day of work to try to get a video filmed and then have it rain, so that's always nice. Kind of amazing how badly this upper radiator hose was chewed up, but it's still holding the radiator to the water pump neck. At this point in the video, you can see that the leftovers are starting to pile up. I mean, at this point in the process, I should almost title the video, "Will this four-wheel drive chassis start up and run?" There's not much left of this Scout. But I've got the fan blades out of the way, I've got the radiator out of the way, and now I can get a better bite on that crank bolt and try to turn this engine over. Well, folks, I wish I had better news, but this engine is locked up tight. At this point, I've already done some editing, and I kind of had this envisioned in the back of my mind to be at least inspiring to some of the younger people that watch YouTube videos that don't work on stuff like this all the time for themselves, or they're kind of getting into working on stuff with their own two hands. Just because you see something sitting in a field and it looks like it's just scrap iron or destined for the crusher, it doesn't always mean that that's the case. I mean, this is incredibly rough, don't get me wrong, but I could still pull the spark plugs out, put some ATF in the cylinders, and maybe even get this engine running. It doesn't appear like there's any cracks on the engine block, and most of the stuff to this Scout is still intact. So, for the first time ever, I'm going to leave it up to you all. Do you want to see part 2 on this? You want me to just take this down into my field and cover the engine up and pretend that I don't even have it? But for the very first time, I'll leave it up to you all. If you want to see part 2, leave it in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. And as always, just a friendly reminder that it doesn't matter if you're working on your project in a garage or in your driveway when it's raining. What matters is that you go out there, you do the job yourself, and you learn more about your project, whatever that project may be. Now that this video's over, and hopefully it's not raining where you're at, how about you go outside and work on something? My name is Zane, and I'll catch you next time.